everyone, welcome back to the Mandy Effect. I'm Mandy. Here we have real conversations that empower us, that inspire us, and that help us show what's possible on the other side. Today my guest is someone who has spent her entire life helping people find their voices. I mean literally. She's the founder of Empower Communication. She is also a speech language pathologist. She's a young mama and she is navigating some changes in her life, and we're going to deep dive into her conversation. And it's Melissa. Welcome to the Mandy Effect.
Thank you.
Yay.
It's so good to be here, Mandy. I'm so excited to talk to people just about like what life looks like as a speech language pathologist, a mom of 2 kids, a business owner.
Yeah.
Lots of different things that you juggle on a daily basis.
Yes. Before we get started, let's talk about who Melissa is beyond the business.
Yeah, so I am a person who loves to go and adventure. I think I definitely like to try new things out. People would say I'm one of those people that definitely like spur the moment, let's go do something and check something out, which is kind of fun. I have some hobbies that I've taken up over the course of like my time. So I did photography for a while before I had kids.
That's amazing.
Which was fun. And now I use that skill to take photos for the business and then photos of my kids.
I know you're very active on your social media and I love seeing your posts.
Yeah.
You're also a mom. Let's talk about you being a mom and what are things that you guys enjoy doing in your personal life.
So my kids have some similar interests as me, which makes it really fun. I'm not a big reader, but both my kids love reading. So that's something that's different. I'm trying to, even though I teach reading and I teach literacy, I don't particularly love books. And we can chat more about that. It's probably because I struggled with reading growing up. Mm-hmm. But we are big board gamers.
Awesome.
My kids and I, we love board games. And typically it's games that nobody's really heard of. So they're like complex things. So my favorite game right now is a game called Everdell. But my son will also play a game with me called Wingspan, which is like a 14+ engine building game, and he's turning 10, but it's very much thinking intellectual.
That's fantastic.
Those are
awesome.
Random pieces.
So let's talk about how you got into speech language pathology. Did you go to school for it?
Yeah. I went to the University of Western Ontario. I did a 4-year undergrad program in health science. And at that time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to work with kids. Mm-hmm. I always wanted to work with kids since I was in elementary school. I was like the first person to babysit, to play with the kid, like everything.
Oh.
So to me, it was either teaching or potentially pediatrician. Mm-hmm. At the time, for teaching, there was a huge influx of people going to teachers college, but no demand for work. Mm-hmm. So I thought that's probably not the best career path. Mm-hmm. And then pediatrician, I was like, I don't feel like I'm smart enough for the medical field. So I was kind of stumped. And then somebody presented occupational therapy to me, and it got me looking into the allied health professions. So occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy was there. Mm-hmm. And when I saw that, I was like, I know exactly what that is because my brother had speech therapy when he was young. And I thought it was the perfect combination of medical, which it definitely is. You have to know a lot of medical, and working with kids. So I ended up talking to one of my professors and I said, this is what I want to do, but I don't think I can get there. And it actually was that professor. And to this day, I will thank him for that, because he was like, if that's what you want to do, we're going to get you there. Yeah. So he took me on in his lab for research. He wrote me the letter of recommendation, and I ended up getting into U of T and Western. And I did my master's and I became a speech pathologist.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love that you kind of went back and gave credit to that teacher, because I think educators can make such a difference in a child's life more than they know, and people sometimes don't see that value. So when you were getting into speech pathology and gaining your experience, kind of like the residency, right? What were some of the gaps that you were seeing? Were there any concerns or issues with the children, being able to navigate families, perceived comments of your child's fine, so-and-so's child was going through this too, they don't need the help? What are some of your findings that you kind of discovered?
I think like being a student, it's like really different than when you're actually in the clinical realm, right? So when you get into the clinical realm and you're actually trying to apply book knowledge, it looks very different. And I feel like even so, because like I guest lecture sometimes actually at the universities at U of T and at Western or McMaster. So I guest lecture there, and I noticed that like they know a lot, and I forget how hard it is to take your knowledge and then apply it to supporting families.
Yeah.
And as I started to work in my career, you could start to see where my gaps were as a speech pathologist from like my education, as well as where the gaps were in the system, as well as where there were misconceptions from parents and the community and things like that. Even within the understanding of what a speech language pathologist does, because our scope of practice is huge. And people, if I say I'm a speech pathologist, people will say to me, oh, do you just, work on R sounds or speech with kids or kids who stutter?
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's a lot that we actually do, and it's way more complex than that.
So what were some of the biggest challenges that you saw earlier in your career versus now?
For parents, primarily. Yeah. So I worked in multiple different working environments. I started in the public sector, so the Preschool Speech and Language Initiative. At the time, I believe there were 7 different initiatives across Ontario, and these are government-funded programs. And one of the biggest challenges I found when I was working in that environment was I felt, as a speech pathologist, I couldn't support the families the best that I wanted to. So oftentimes there's wait lists for these programs because there's so many people that need these services, as well as it's based on an inclusion criteria. So it's based on how severe a child is and what type of service model they'll be able to receive. So whether that's parent education, whether that's individual sessions or group therapy sessions. And I just felt like it wasn't enough sometimes. And I know that the programs there are for parents to access, and they are fantastic that we have publicly funded programs. I just felt I couldn't give everything that I needed to help kids succeed. So then I went into private practice. And the challenges obviously with private practice are that it's often paid out of pocket, right? So parents are paying for these services, and they're not government funded. Some people might have insurance dollars to cover, like you would a dentist or chiropractor or something like that, but some people don't. And so then, even though these services are there for people to access in addition to the public services, once again, I feel bad sometimes as a speech pathologist in a private sector, where you feel like a family may not be able to access as much services as their child would need because of financial barriers.
Sure.
And so like there's always barriers no matter what you kind of are, which kind of area you're looking at. And I know that I feel that even though I'm the one practicing, I feel what the weight that the families feel.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be very challenging being a business owner, wanting to extend that extra hand, but also kind of that fine line of taking a step back and sort of outsourcing, knowing that there's limited resources that might be available. And sometimes it's also the lack of education, right, that people simply don't have. Let's talk about the birth of empowered communication. So you have all this experience. You kind of very early in your career decided that this is the route you want to go, and you had great support. How was the idea of empowered communication born?
Yeah, so like I said, I explored the public sector initially, and then after being contract after contract after contract, because back then speech language pathology jobs, once again, were really hard to come by, and there was nothing consistent. And I always knew I wanted to be a mom, so I was like, I can't family plan on a 3-month contract. So I went out into the private industry, worked for a private company up in Milton, which definitely provided me with so many opportunities to learn a whole new way of providing speech services, as well as like a whole different type of clientele. I was able to practice a lot of my skills within the adults and different types of working. I was able to practice all my skills like across the scope of the speech pathology So like seeing young kids who are late to talk, seeing kids who were struggling with articulation, seeing kids who were delayed with language, and then even into adults. So I started to see adults for like voice therapy, adult rehabilitation, and that allowed me to try to kind of dabble in different areas and decide what it was I liked. When I got pregnant with my son, I was up in Milton, and we decided to move back home to the Niagara region at the time because Dad's family lived in the Niagara region, so it was the best option for some support.
For sure.
So at that time, because I had experience in both, I decided I would just start seeing my own private clients in the Niagara region. And at that time, it was just me. So that's kind of, I knew I had to work in some capacity. And so it really was just a matter of, what do I want to do? Do I want to go back to a public sector, or do I just want to start trying to see private clients on my own? So it wasn't, in all honesty, it was never a really big dream to set up like this huge business and to have people working under me. It was mainly just my livelihood is what it was. And I knew I had to do something. Yeah.
So that's fantastic to be able to turn something that you enjoy doing and then transition it into a business, right? Being a business owner, I'm sure you had to learn a lot of different sides of the business that sort of come with that territory, right? So what were some of the challenges you faced as a business owner? What were some of the learnings? How did you sort of prepare yourself to become a business owner?
I didn't. I failed miserably, but somehow we're still here today. I know nothing about business. And honestly, there were so many times where I'm like, how is this still running? In all honesty. So I did take on a couple of independent contractors shortly after I started, very part-time. And at that time we were doing community visits. So it was all home-based visits. And then COVID hit. And things were shut down. And so we had families kind of be like, well, what's the next steps? What are you going to do? We never had an actual clinic space. And I thought, okay, let's get a clinic space because that makes logical sense. If we want to still service these families, we're going to need a space to do it. And it can't be in people's homes. But I didn't really take into account the extra overhead, right? So I made no changes to my business model. We had everything as status quo. And the year that I took on office space, this is where my lack of business knowledge comes in. I made literally nothing probably that year. And I thought I was making money because like I was seeing clients, but I didn't account for overhead and all the other expenses. So that was a big shock to me and was like a little bit of an eye opener and being like, what am I doing? So it took a lot to recoup from that. And I still feel like I am still trying to navigate all that. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is to outsource the things that I don't know about. So I have an accountant now, and I have like an intake I have some people just helping with more of the business aspect because I have not done any additional training in a business. And so I don't really know much about that, more just the SLP side of things.
I get it. I think it's important when you're so passionate about something. Sometimes life has a funny way of kind of pushing you into that, but then also creating more opportunity. And I think one of the things I've learned in my experience is also to, if you can afford it, and also if you have the capacity to delegate, divide and conquer, because that gives you more time to learn and focus on other aspects of your career and business.
For sure.
Where you can generate an income. You can focus on that extra education. Talking about your business, you are a leader. You do have, direct reports. You have other pathologists that work with you. How do you show up as a leader, and what are some of the challenges do you see in that? Like you said, you weren't born or didn't go to school to become an entrepreneur, right? You kind of grew and you kind of evolved.
So I think that, as we started to grow, some of the things that I did to guide, I think, SLPs and future SLPs is, like I said, I was asked to actually guest lecture at the University of Toronto and then McMaster. And that, once again, if you knew me in high school and university, like, I wouldn't even raise my hand to answer a question in a classroom setting. Like, don't put the spotlight on me. Don't talk to me. Yeah. And so for somebody to ask me to guest lecture in front of graduate students who are very knowledgeable and have lots of questions, it was a bit terrifying. Yeah. But I did it. And this was one of the things that I kind of went out of my comfort zone, and I did it and I tried it, and I loved it. I loved it. And I just realized how much I loved like pouring into the students and teaching them some of the things that I learned over my 15 years of being a speech pathologist, especially in the area of literacy. And so one way that I kind of am growing in the field and being a leader in the field is trying to educate other SLPs on how can you support kids in reading and literacy? Like, they don't teach much of it still in school. They're starting to a little bit more, but what does that look like? And how can you kind of tap into all these different areas of a child to make them successful in their learning and their academics and life, right? Because literacy is such a big part of that. Yeah. We've also started to take on students. So that was something new as well. So we opened up the door to take on like placement students. And that has also been just a bit of a learning curve, right? Like taking somebody on, having them under your wing, having them watch you and teach you and things like that. So I feel like for the future SLPs, that's kind of what we're doing. For my current SLPs and the girls that are working on the team, they're brilliant. Like, I love them. They are great. And we are actually very much a close-knit team. Like, we're more than just like colleagues. We are friends outside. So I really, really value the dynamic of the team that we have and the types of people that we have on it. Like, it's not me necessarily leading them. It's like we're constantly bouncing ideas off of each other. Yeah. So when people like introduce me, I'll go out with one of them sometimes and they'll be like, so this is my boss. I'm like, no, like we're a team, like, you know, and even new ideas that I have, like, hey, should we open up a different location? I always run it by the girls because like, it's not me running the whole thing, even though it is, but it isn't. Like, their input and what they have to say is very valuable. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so different, because it's not me and them. It's like us
as a team. Yeah. I think when you have that kind of a work culture, you're always going to be a success. And when you walk away from the titles and focus on the right thing, you're naturally going to have a healthy work culture. Yeah. What are some of the challenges that people don't see behind the scenes of a business? So like you said earlier, we touched on it, you were making money, but you're really not making money because you're growing and there's other aspects that you were pouring out to, which you probably didn't think of, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what do those look like for anyone that's out there wanting to open their own business, or is a young mama that's looking into sort of growing that aspect of her career?
Yeah, so I think some of the biggest challenges with starting the business were not recognizing the financials, right? Like knowing how much extra you're having to put in. So like all the overhead costs. The other part of that is like, for at least related to my business as a speech pathologist, is that when I first started, I definitely couldn't really hold boundaries, right? Like, so I knew I needed an income. So if parents wanted a 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock appointment, I would always take those clients because I had to build a caseload, right? So you didn't really have a say because it was like, no, you're just going to have to take those clients. Now that we have like a well-structured business, we can figure out what works for us and our lifestyle and our schedules. But these are all things I didn't think of when I started the business. So when people come to me, excuse me, and they come to me and they say like, oh, I want to start a private practice. Some of the things that I say to them are like, it's not as easy as it looks. Like, it's not that you just have the flexibility to like create your own schedule and all these clients are magically going to appear. And then the other aspect of it is the marketing, right? Like I had an Instagram account, but I never used it. I didn't even like, what is this platform? So it was COVID times where somebody was like, I think you should really start to like look at using Instagram. I was like, another social media account, like, oh,
it's overwhelming in the beginning, especially when you don't know how to navigate social media. It can be challenging. Well, I definitely,
and it was new. That. Like I was like the generation of Facebook. Yeah. Like I remember being in university and Facebook was launched. Yeah. Like
I never had Facebook. Imagine that.
Yeah. So Instagram, I was like, oh, what is this? So that was really challenging too, just navigating how do you develop these connections on social media because the world is shut down.
Yeah.
And what's networking look like and marketing look like? And once again, I don't have a degree in networking and marketing. Like I had no idea how you kind of push through and make yourself known to the world type of a thing. So there's lots of challenges with trying to get a business up and running for sure.
Yeah. And I think, would you like some water?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions with people thinking that when you're a business owner, you're naturally wealthy and all this money just grows on trees and you do very well financially. I want to touch on your feedback or input on that because I don't think that's always necessarily true. Like you said, when you have a business, it's a lot of responsibility, right? Especially when you start to hire resources. If they have an appointment, someone cancels, that kind of falls on you, right?
Yeah.
And then when you look at the financial aspect, you have a business that has expenses, but then you have a family that you're running. You have your kids, you have the groceries, you have the house bills, and you have the unexpected bills that kind of pop up. So what do you want to tell anyone that's kind of looking into opening their own business or within your area of expertise?
I think okay. Okay. There we go. I think the biggest thing with running, especially a private practice, is not being scared of like the ebbs and flows of it, right? So like now that I've done it for so long, I know that there is going to be down times, especially like in sick season. We're going to get a lot of cancellations where kids are sick. In the summer too, right? Families go away on vacation. So summer tended to be like a lower influx of families, but now I'm finding actually a little bit of the reverse where families are off school and they actually want services. But like to kind of embrace that and to recognize that, or to even prepare for that, right? Like if I know December is going to be a harder month, like let's prepare for that in advance, especially knowing that I have to support a family, right? So that's one of the biggest things I think you have to be prepared for if you are starting a practice or if you want to enter into a private practice within this field. And I'm sure it's the same with a lot of other people too, especially with the way that our business is set up. So all of our clinicians are independent contractors, right? So they don't have a set wage or salary. They're not going to get paid for missed visits or if they're sick or their kids are sick, right? Like my kids were sick this week. I had to take a day off, right? Like I don't have a sick leave. I didn't have a mat leave. I had both my kids, a C-section. 2 months after, when I got the clear to go, 2 months after, I was back to work, because you had to, right? So there are things to consider, and it's not all rainbows and butterflies. Like there are positives for sure, but you definitely have to be the type of person that is okay with some of the inconsistency. But it is hard to navigate, and I don't think people understand the what all goes into it on the back end, really, right? Like it does, we increase our prices yearly to compensate for like and offset some of the costs, but sometimes that doesn't even cut it, right? And so, it does look like sometimes the business is running smoothly and running really well, and they're like, you have 3 locations. We do, but when you do an evaluation and you kind of look at everything, which is once again not something I knew to even do because I don't do business, but my accountant's like, hey, let's do this whole process and evaluation and look at, what each site is generating. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Because I'm just like, hey, where's the need? Let's fill it. Let's go to Font Hill. Let's go to Grimsby. But it's like more than that. And that's something I don't consider, which is why I had to hire help or else we might not be here today.
No, that makes sense. And sometimes, when people see that you're opening more locations, they necessarily don't see the behind the scenes of, they're not really making money. They're just growing. Yes. Right. And growth has different aspects as well.
Growth doesn't necessarily mean more profit.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've gone through hard seasons just like everybody else in life, right? Yeah. So when you have a business, it's a huge responsibility. Yeah. You have to lead by example. Yeah. You must show up even on your hard days. As they say, the show must go on. Yeah. So I'm sure you've had situations where your children were sick or you were navigating, an unexpected experience in life where things needed to shift. How do you show up as the best version of yourself? Or even like on a day when you're feeling really crappy, like do you just go to work and say, walk us through what that's like for you?
I mean, there have definitely been tough times in the past years of running the business. Like obviously COVID was one of those where I had to reevaluate everything. And then, there's been situations where we've had like SLPs on the team that weren't great fits that have definitely like thrown people under the bus that we've had to deal with. Like just like so many things that when you're a person that is, I am a people pleaser by nature, and I think a lot of SLPs are, but like when you're a person who has like so much empathy and compassion and just want to help people, when something negative happens to you, whether it's like another SLP, a family, the community, anything, I often take it very personally, which is something I've had to learn, to like not to take those things personally. So like on my hardest days, and I've had some really hard days, I'm not gonna lie, I've been like, what am I doing and why am I doing this? Like maybe I should back out, maybe I should stop what I'm doing because is it worth it? And I always come back to the conclusion that it is. I always like, passion. It's the passion, it's the team, it's the family. So even though there's that one bad apple, so to speak, I have learned like I have to recognize that maybe it's something that is impacting them and they're taking it out on me, right? Like that's a lesson I've really had to learn because I definitely take things to heart and take them very personally, even like a bad review here and there. But it's like, okay, it's constructive criticism. How can we do better, right? It's not necessarily against me. So yeah, on my hard days, I do show up. Like I definitely, I show up. And I think that's one of the things that I would say is a strength of mine. I know lots of people who have gone through very challenging things that can kind of wipe them off their feet.
For sure.
Right. Like, and I know I've been around people who have, very hard times. And I understand that sometimes like there is a component where you have to take that step back and you have to take care of yourself. And there are things that will affect you mentally and physical health and things like that. And I get that. I am thankful, I guess, so to speak, that I'm somebody who can push through those things. So it's never actually knocked me out where I felt like I can't go to work. I can't do this. Like I can't get out of bed today because like it's too hard. I've always shown up.
I guess what are some things that worked for you during those hard times? So when you did have to show up, sometimes it's a matter of taking a nice hot shower. Sometimes it's, going for a spa. What are things that worked for you during your seasons that might help someone that might be watching today?
So I think for me, I'm the type of person that I don't like, I guess it was a mindset. Part of it was mindset where I was looking at, I have poured, because I remember it must have been about 5 years ago. So halfway through the business. And I was like, I have poured 5 years of my life, like sweat and blood, like nursing, taking care of newborns, like created this business. And if I choose to give up today, I've lost those 5 years. Right. Like, so there was a lot of mindset where I was like, I have to really think this through. Like, I cannot give up on this business. I'm going to keep pushing through, even though it was through tears sometimes at the end of the night. Like, let's just get through this. Or I also remember, finding my people, right? Like when you're in the midst of all of it, especially there was some really dark years where I should say, dark in the sense that like I was doing it a solo. Right. Like, so I didn't have a core group of friends. I had young children at home. I'm running a business. So you go from like waking up multiple times in the middle of the night to having to work during the day to having to go back to tend for like, there was no external relationships happening. Right. So, I started to reach out to people. Like I started to find people that would understand or that could support me or help me. And also I started to try to give back into relationships as well too. Right. And that's when I think I really started to form more friendships. Cause I would say I was a person that really didn't have a lot of friendships given my current situation in life.
Yeah.
And I think that those people, the people that are there to cheer you on, right? Like those are the people.
Huge difference. Yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
Even on social media, I found, right?
Yeah.
Like there was people that would check in on me if I wasn't posting as often, because it's like, then they knew. And like, maybe I don't know them in person, but they've watched me grow and they've been there.
Yeah.
And it's like the little things like that where people are like, hey, you're doing amazing things. Like, keep going. And it was like the feedback from families. It's the knowing that I'm helping kids out. Like it's mindset, and it was connection is really kind of what got me through those times. But I definitely could have gone the other way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I think that's the insane thing about hard times is you can either go south, or you can just, you know, the mentality that I also come from is you just gotta get up. You gotta get up, and you gotta keep on going.
One foot in front of the other, right?
There's little teeny toes that are, you know, dependent on you.
Yes.
Even on your hardest days when you're in your tears, you want to put that smile on for that little baby who's looking into your eyes, right?
Yeah.
What about your family? You mentioned that, you know, dad's side of the family was in Niagara on the Lake.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings like that? What did that village look like for you?
Yeah. So I would say I didn't have, like, my family's lovely, but they're not close by. Okay. So they're still in the London region. And in fact, my brother and sister-in-law are in Montreal. Yeah. So they're quite a far ways away. Yeah. So I didn't have that. And, you know, like, I would say that I am a highly anxious parent. So like even putting kids into somebody else's care was nerve-wracking for me. So sure. I often did not accept much help or allow much help other than immediate family. So that did often look like dad's side of the family because they're here. And I'm grateful for that because I would not have been able to do what I did without that for sure. But I didn't have a lot of people where I could just be like, hey, can you come watch my kids? Because I didn't trust people.
No, you know what? That's very normal. I think when you're a young mom and you've especially gone through you know, hard seasons. I think it's a natural instinct when you're a young mom that this is my baby and I want to protect it. But also there's so much data. There is pounds and pounds and, you know, tons of data that's available on stories that you hear with daycares, educators, you know, things that are wrong with the system. So I think that's completely normal and that makes you a very sane parent. Talking about your business and kind of going back into the family aspect, so when a family reaches out to you for someone who hasn't, you know, that doesn't know this side of the area, so what does like a typical intake look like when you start working with the child? I'm sure there's a little hesitancy with the parents. There's a lot of, you know, it's a little heart that's coming to you. They're probably wondering in their head, what's going on over here? How does that, walk us through how that works?
So, you know what? The thing is that I used to do all that, right? So when I first started, I would say up until 2.5 years ago, I was that point of contact. It's actually the phone number on the website is actually my personal cell phone number. Wow. It's the same number. So I would be always the person to answer. And I tended to know like every family that came through our doors because I took all the calls. And then it just became way too much because if you had like 5 people calling you in a day and you're seeing your own clients, there was no time for me to respond back to them. And I would drop balls because I would get people message me on Instagram, send a contact form through our website, call me, text me. Like I would have multiple different ways of people reaching out, and I still do, but I feel like I've created a better system. And I would drop balls and I would feel bad, like, oh no, that I never got back to that family. Like I didn't mean to do it, but it just sort of happened. So here's an example where I hired somebody to do my intake. So now our current intake process looks like if they call the number and they call my cell phone, I generally let it go to voicemail if I don't know who the number is. So they'll get a message saying, please leave a message or fill out our contact form. I'm trying to streamline it. We don't want to lose anybody in the process.
No, that's fair.
The best thing for them to do is to fill out our contact form. And then my intake coordinator, Leanna, who's wonderful, will call them up and she'll have a chat with them and just get all the information. So she'll talk to the family, call them up. If there's anything that I need to follow up on, I will. But then she's often asking like, hey, which location do you want to go to? What's the best times for you? How does your child present? Because all of our clinicians, even though we're all speech language pathologists and therapy assistants / communication disorders assistants, we all have, I would say, areas that we feel strong in.
For sure.
Right? Like it's such a broad scope of practice. So if a child has a certain need, we want to make sure that we're pairing that child with the clinician who's best suited to support that family. So Leanna now does all that. And then she'll take the contact information, try to set them up with somebody. We do have like a small wait list. Once again, it goes up in waves. We did have a longer wait list at one period of time, but we're trying to manage that. But that is our current intake process right now. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So when the families come in, is there any like hesitancy with certain families? Is there fear? What are those experiences like?
I feel like no, not often. Like I wouldn't say often. I would say the bulk of the families that come in generally just want to boost their child's language or to get a head start on like early intervention. And so these families usually have heard something from, say, like a daycare provider or like for the younger ones, or they've been in the system already for speech and they're looking for private services, or the parent has a niece or nephew who's around the same age and their kids are talking more and they're kind of comparing, or friends with kids the same age. So usually when parents come in, like because they're paying out of pocket and they're initiating private services, there's usually not a lot of hesitation, which is a little bit different, I would say, than if somebody were to do a referral for them into like the public sector. And some parents might be a bit in denial. I do find though too, one of the biggest things that does make me nervous as a speech pathologist is the mom groups.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so you get parents who will use the mom groups for almost like validation or confirmation as to like, is this right? Am I doing this right? Or should I pursue this? Or should I do that? And I see oftentimes that parents will ask, oh, like my 3-year-old's not talking as much, or my 2-year-old's not talking as much. Should I be concerned? Like they're looking for that validation.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents will validate it.
Yeah. I always say, when in doubt, always ask. If you're thinking it, you probably need to reach out to someone. Yeah.
Like they'll suggest things like, my brother didn't start talking till he was 3. Now he can't stop talking, which is fair, and it does happen. The problem with that line of thinking is that it doesn't always happen. So you can't bank on it does happen, and therefore you've lost critical years of intervention. And I think if I could say one thing to parents is it's not just that delay. Right? So like if I had to say something and just like as a suggestion or a piece of advice for parents, when your child is late to talk and you get that gut feeling and you're wondering, is this okay or not okay? Just like you said, check it out, because that late to talk could end up being delayed language, could end up being difficulty with literacy skills down the road, could end up being difficulty with academics down the road. And then that trickles into their whole life. Right? And so it's not just this one little thing. And I just want parents not to be fearful of it, but just to recognize that speech and language is very much connected to a child's well-being later in life.
I think it's also acceptance, right? I think sometimes, like you said, with the gut feeling, we're in denial, especially when it has to do something with our child.
For sure.
That may require that extra attention, right?
Yeah.
So if we were to look at, early signs. So I know, you said, they're not talking like my other kids. What are some early signs that parents could look for that may trigger like, okay, we might need to reach out to the pediatrician or someone that may be able to better guide us?
Yeah, I mean, like if we're talking like little ones, like we're starting with the young ones, I think that we look for foundation or like kind of those pre-language skills, because obviously you're not talking as an 8-month-old, right? So some of the things that we would look at as a speech pathologist are they engaged in the sense that are they looking at you, kind of what you're doing, engaged in activities like peekaboo, right? If you're doing peekaboo, are you getting that smile, that reaction from them? Do they understand kind of that routine? Are they starting to like imitate or copy things, whether that sounds, as a baby, if you're going ma, 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 and then maybe you change it up as the parent and go ba, 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 ba. Do they try to imitate some of those things? So we're looking at imitation. We're looking at reaction. So how are they engaged? We're looking at, are they starting to do some of those like larger movements, right? Are they starting to maybe clap, wave down the line? Are they starting to copy like play skills and doing some of those? Speech in and of itself is a fine motor movement. It requires lots of different muscle patterns and different articulators, like the tongue, the mouth, breath support. If a child is not copying gross motor movements, clapping, waving, peekaboo, the likelihood of them copying some of those fine motor speech patterns is less likely. So we're always looking at those skills. We're looking at how are they communicating? Are they trying to get your attention? Are they pointing to things? Are they reaching, grabbing your hands? Are they initiating communication? And sometimes kids just don't, right? Like they don't initiate. And that's something that we would consider perhaps then we should bring a child in and just see if we can support some of that language development. So yeah, drawing attention, imitation, initiation, and like how else their nonverbal communication, how else are they doing that for the little ones? Yeah.
What about, maybe there's no such thing as like a typical timeline. Every case is probably different.
Yeah.
But what is the typical timeline of when someone comes to you and you do feel like, okay, there's support that we can offer them? How long is the process from where they start to where you start to see signs of them adapting to the activities and now learning to speak?
Yes, that is a very big question. And we will get parents say, how many sessions do you think my child will need? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
And I'll just say to you, like, I'll give you an example that when I started my career in private practice, which had to have been, I've been in this, for 15 years? So it had to have been over 10, no, it would have been about 12 years ago because my son will be 10. I remember starting with a little guy who was, I think, 3 years old at the time, non-speaking autistic. And I continued with him like all the way into his teenage years. So like, and I still have some clients like that where like I was with them at such a young age and I grew with them. And like there was just different skills that we had to work with. So we do see people, because like I said, it's very much connected. It's not just the delayed talking or things like that. If it is a typical speech sound error, if a child comes to us and they're struggling with just saying like their R sound or just saying their S sound, their language is intact, their literacy is intact, those clients we tend to find will come to us and they'll reach their goals much faster.
Yeah, for sure.
But the other thing that we have to look at is like if a child is not saying their R by a certain age, it might just not because they're not saying their R. We're now looking at the motor components. And, a lot of new research has come out this year in the realm of SLP, just having us more critically analyze what is the cause of them not being able to say a certain sound. And so like, I think that sometimes our parents, they don't have that training, right? So they're just hearing, well, my child is not saying their S's or they're saying their S with their tongue coming out and it's like sun. And like, they'll grow out of that.
Yeah.
Once again, the fact of the matter is that might not actually happen because there might be other things that are impacting that tongue position, right? Like, do they have enlarged tonsillar adenoids? Are they an open mouth breather? Can they move their tongue tip up without their jaw? Like, all these things are things that we look at as a speech pathologist, and it's not necessarily as simple as they're just not saying, right? So, I don't even remember what your question was, but there we are.
How long it takes for a child, right?
So it differs.
So it differs on a case-by-case, right?
Yeah.
I guess followed by that, what are activities that parents can do at home with children, either while they're waiting or in this process where you give them homework that have proven to be very beneficial for the child?
So there's definitely early language strategies that have been shown to be kind of like the ideal for helping support kids with their vocabulary development.
Yeah.
But once again, if a child has any other factors, then they may not work. Yeah. Right. So those are all things. It's not like this recipe of like, here, follow this, and then your child's going to talk. Yeah. It doesn't always work, but I can share some things that you should be doing or could work. Right. So for the little ones, which is honestly one of my favorite ages, like I love the 18-month-year-olds, the ones that are just starting to kind of talk. So for the little ones, really what you want to do is you want to say it as if they could say it.
Yeah.
So when I talk to parents and I say, I'm saying this word, red car, I'm saying it like that, not because I don't think they don't understand what I'm saying. By all means, I could say, hey, you have a red car that's going down the racetrack. And they probably understood that whole sentence that I gave them. But are they going to say that back to me?
No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
They do not have the development to do that. Like they don't have all the capacity to do all that articulation. So they're not going to say, I have a red car that's going down the racetrack. So when I give a model to a child, I'm giving it to them because I want them to say it back to me.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping it simple. So if my child is only saying one word at a time, if they're saying car, I'm going to give the next step up. I'm going to go red car. If my child is not even saying car and they're just pointing to it, I'm just going to say car. So I'm just giving that model based on their level, but I'm saying it as if they could. And I often find parents, it's a very different frame of mind. Like, and even as a speech pathologist, my first few years of practice, I really had to keep myself in check to make sure I'm doing that type of modeling. Because even if a child is going like pointing to the cupboard and going like this, instead of saying, oh, do you want the crackers? Thinking about what is the child actually saying. They're not saying that. They're not asking that question.
Yeah.
You know what they want because they're pointing directly to it.
Yeah.
You as a parent should be saying crackers.
Yeah.
Giving them that word because then they're more likely to repeat it and to label it, right? So like instead of trying to reinforce like what is it that they're saying, unless you absolutely don't know, obviously, then you're going to ask them. But if you know what they're saying, instead of asking that question, give them the model. So modeling is key and keeping the model simple is key.
Yeah.
The other thing that I feel like parents tend to do is question their kids. You look at book reading and same thing, like I would do too as a parent. It's so easy to do. So you open a book and you're like, what is that? Where's the duck? What color is this? How many cars do you see? You're asking them like 100 questions. Yeah. And you know, for kids, you're putting them on, that's like a testing situation. Yeah. Like imagine how we are as adults, right? Like don't quiz me on everything. It's going to give me anxiety and stress me out. Yeah. So it's the same for kids. So that takes a huge shift because we think if we ask a question, we're going to get an answer back and therefore our child's going to talk. Really what we should be saying is switch the questions into comments, right? So instead of saying, where's the duck? You could say, oh, the pond, right? Give the answer, don't give the question. So I think the modeling, the turn your questions into comments are big ones. And I think the other thing is following your child's lead. Okay. And what I mean by that is like same thing as adults, we have an agenda. If our child is if our child's playing with a toy not the way that it's supposed to, we want to change that. Maybe we're getting bored of one toy and we're like, oh, look at this toy. And we're trying to bring in a whole new toy in for the child. Yeah. But they're just loving rolling a paper towel roll on the floor, whatever it is. Yeah. If you're not following their lead and commenting on what they're doing and you're trying to bring your own agenda to the table, I'm sorry, they're not listening to you. Yeah. Like everything that you're saying, the language that you're modeling is out the window. And same thing, if you relate it to adults, like if I'm in a social situation and somebody's talking to me about, let's say business, because I know nothing about it and I'm not interested in it, I'd much rather be talking about like what we're going to do on the weekend. Yeah. Most of what that person is saying, to be honest, probably is way over my head. Yeah. I'm not connecting with it. So I'm not understanding it. I'm not actually taking that information in, right? But if they're talking about the things that I'm interested in or I know about, that connection is going to be made. Yeah. And so the same goes for kids.
Yeah. I'm sure you have thousands, but can you share one story that really touched your heart or that really stayed with you?
Oh, man. I think for me, it's not that I can pinpoint one particular child, but I think for me, the biggest thing that really kind of keeps me going, like I said, I did struggle with reading as a child, and I think it was because I wasn't taught properly. And the system still isn't quite set up to do that. Yeah. We're making gains, changes are being made, but there are still tons of struggling readers. Yeah. And I think for me, going into this, I did not do literacy. Yeah. And I remember one family approached me and I was working on language with their child and they said, my child can't read. Who does that? Yeah. I was like, the teacher? Yeah. a tutor? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, who's actually supposed to help these kids who are struggling readers?
Yeah.
So I looked into it, and this is where my journey with literacy began. And I looked into it and I realized speech pathologist. I mean,
parents starts with the
parents
parent,
can,
right?
but the speech pathologist is actually the person that is in the most ideal position because of their scope of practice.
For sure. Right?
Like a child's literacy actually starts with their language. Mm-hmm. If a child doesn't have language and they don't understand vocabulary, they can't develop literacy. And so like, I was blown away. I was like, I guess it's me. I guess I'll be learning how to do this. Yeah. So since then, when I started to learn how to teach kids how to read and how connected it is, like a child with speech sound delays could have a whole like collapse of sound system, which is how we learn to read. Yeah. You recognize graphemes, or the letters on the page, and you relate them to sounds. And if their whole speech sound system is collapsed, that's going to translate into literacy learning. Yeah. So language, speech, all of it's connected to literacy. And so every single time now that when I started to learn literacy, I was like, oh, even as an adult, I was like, I get this. Yeah. I can actually read better now as an adult because like I wasn't taught it. And now that I'm learning it, I get it. And then every time I see that child start to get it, when they kind of crack that code and they get it. Yeah. And the confidence that you see in these kids when they all of a sudden realize that they can read, I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, so for me, it's any child that comes to me that's a struggling reader and is like, hey, this is too hard for me. I can't do this. And I'm like, you know what? I get it because I was there. Yeah. And then when they finally get it and their face just lights up, I'm like, got it. We're moving forward. So like, it's those kids. Yeah. And I think that's why I'm just so passionate about literacy.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So being a mom, you have two kids. Yeah. Or, being a speech language pathologist, vice versa, how has that shaped you as a parent, or you as a parent, how has that helped you in your career?
So I think that for me, I will say, like, sometimes I feel bad because I'm like, I teach kids all day long how to do these things. And then I come home and I'm like, oh no. Yeah. I need to teach my own kids how to spell. Like, I do this for my career, and here my own child needs a little bit of help in like spelling or understanding these rules. Yeah. So I think it's actually the same issue, just different sides of the coin, right? Like, so I taught my kids how to read, and my son was about 3 when he started reading, and my daughter she was a little bit later because she didn't have as much interest, but she just started picking it up around 5. And now they're like fluent readers. But it was like, I had those skills and I use them with my own kids. But then on the flip side, I look at like some of the spelling and I'm like, I know how to teach spelling, but sometimes I'm so tapped out at the end of the day that I'm not teaching my own kids how to correctly spell these words, even though I can do it, right? Yeah. So like, I have certain skills, and just sometimes it's harder being the mom doing the teaching.
Oh, yeah. It's always hard when you're the parent. Yeah. I think even sometimes like my daughter will see like, oh, mama's treating so-and-so differently. But when it comes to me, she'll say to me, sometimes you're really hard on me. But I'm like, it's because I know you can do it, right? Yeah. So it's also kind of helping them push and believe in themselves. Yeah. That's fantastic. Okay, what is, if we look at Melissa as a mom, as a woman, and as a business owner now, right? Your business is evolving, it's growing. You guys have 3 locations. What's next for you, your business, and just your journey?
To be honest, every year I say to myself, I am going to make the business stable enough so that I can pull back a little bit and have more time for me. Yeah. And every year I end up taking on more. And I can't pull back. But I feel like I've made slow gains. And so like for me as a business owner, I think, like I said, really what we're doing is we are just trying to meet the needs of the community as best as we can with the resources we have. Yeah. And so we can only service as many clients as I have clinicians, right? Or what our availability is. And it is actually hard to find SLPs, even though they keep graduating. Yeah. The need is so great that sometimes, like I poured so much energy one year into trying to find people, I just gave up. Yeah. And we've been so blessed with some of the people that just started to hear about us as a business, and I think that's what makes a difference. It's like I stopped putting my name out there and like marketing for a new graduate or marketing for an SLP, and people just started coming to us. And I think I'm like, that's the way I want it. I want people to want to come to be at Empower. And so for us, it's a matter of like, if we get more clinicians, great. I will look at like, where's that next need? And I know that like places like Fort Erie are really struggling. And that's always been on my radar, like down in the Niagara Peninsula that way. So it's always been on my radar. Like if I can, I would, you know, type of a thing. So from a business standpoint, I don't have, to be honest, I don't have a 5-year plan of growth. I kind of take it as it comes. Like, where is it? Is there an opportunity? Is the door opening? Can we do it as a team? Can we not? And we kind of look at it like that. As a parent, as an individual that's trying to navigate like being that working person and also having time for myself, I think some of the biggest gains and strides that I've made are setting some of that time aside for me without feeling guilty. And I know I've taken up like things, honestly, things that I thought I never would like, tried them and realized how much of like a mental break and just like it gives you. And then it also makes you feel like stronger, not only in the physical sense, but mentally, right? So like 2 years after my daughter was born, I started to take up CrossFit. And I was like, I'm never lifting weights. I'm never working out. It's not my thing. And I just couldn't stop. So like I do CrossFit once a week. And I mean,
Pilates.
I tried Pilates last year and it's like, I like this too. Actually, we did Pilates on, there's a great little Pilates studio in Niagara on the Lake. It's called Refine. And last summer she did a sunrise Pilates session on it's not a boogie board. What is it? A wakeboard or what is it?
I've never done Pilates.
I don't know. A board on the water. See, I don't even know that word. Like one of those, the big boards on the water, board Pilates on the water, sunrise. And I was like, I've never even been on these boards. Like you're going to ask, like, I'm going to do it, but guaranteed I'm trying to balance my weight on this board in the water. I'm going to fall over and flop right in. But it was so fun. Like, so all these new things, I'm just like, let's try. Let's see what I like and let's try it.
I love how you're open to things. It's just amazing how you're just willing to try it and it kind of works out for you and you have that go-getter personality. I definitely resonate with that. I have so many questions that I can ask you to continue this conversation. We could be here for hours and days, but to kind of lighten this segment and the mood, I always like to do a rapid fire round. Nothing fancy, very quick answers that come to your mind. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, this is the rapid fire round with Melissa.
Okay, here we go.
All right, a parenting moment that made you laugh recently.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So my daughter is very literal. And every time she says something, I'm like, I want to remember what she said here. And actually, this was one that was pretty funny. So she always likes a bedtime snack. And she goes, what do you have for snack? And I said, okay, well, you can have like crackers or cheese or grapes. Or she goes, you have nothing else? And I said, well, I think I have strawberries, but I don't know what shape they're in. And she goes, Mom, I don't care about the shape. I've never cared about the shape of the strawberries. I'm like, oh no, not like the literal shape. Like, I don't know if they're good to eat or not, but like, it's so funny how sometimes their brains work because I was like, it's just, and she was so serious. Like, I do not care about what the shape of the strawberries is.
I just want strawberry.
I just want strawberries. Okay, well, we'll
that's cute. Very cute. One word your kids would use to describe you.
I've thought about that one, and to be honest, I have no idea. I hope they would describe me as fun. But I don't know. I better ask them.
You should.
I don't know.
I ask random questions to my daughter. Sometimes I'll be like, I have a question. She'll be like, what is it, Mommy? But, you know, she's used to that now. What's something motherhood made you surprisingly good at?
Not sleeping.
Not sleeping. That's a real one. I can understand. Your go-to reset after a tough day?
I'm often driving home on the road. So I think like for me, it's like crank up the music and just have that time in the car.
Okay. Your coffee order in one line?
I don't drink coffee.
What do you drink? You're a tea drinker. Okay.
I am a tea drinker. Yes, I am. But I also like to experiment there too.
With other mocktails.
I like the matcha lattes and the teas, but I'm not a coffee drinker.
Okay, I love coffee. My mornings they must start with coffee. A small win in your business lately?
A small one in my business lately. I think I guess it's just the wins are when the families just send us those quick notes and are like, my kid loves the sessions, or they're doing so good. Like anytime we hear those little things, that's what keeps us going, to be honest.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
What's harder, running a business or parenting?
I think running a business, honestly, especially if you don't have a business background, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think both of them can be, but I can understand
they're
with
different
the
types
business
of hard.
aspect. Yeah. One thing you wish more parents knew about communication.
I think I've alluded to it, but I feel like one thing I knew parents knew about communication was, or how complex it is, and how interconnected it is with so many different things. Right? Like child's language, literacy, speech affects child's social situations, affects academics. And like even as adults, like we have such a high illiteracy rate here in Canada. The mental aspect of an adult not being able to read, to know how to take prescription medicine, to know how to read road signs, like things like that, like that has a huge impact on people.
Yeah, for sure. I lost the line. Okay, I need a minute escape.
I need a minute escape? Like if I'm with the kids or whatever?
Yeah.
Probably go to the bathroom.
Mine is hide in the closet and eat some chocolate. All right, something you're currently learning about yourself.
I feel like I am learning that I can be myself. And when I'm myself, the people that value me will stick with me.
For sure. 100%.
And I don't need to conform to things that people want from me, I guess, in order to keep friendships.
Yeah, for sure. A boundary that's changed your life recently.
I'm really bad at boundaries. But I think like one boundary.
I am so good at boundaries.
I'm so bad at boundaries. I think one thing I'm trying to do is to like put a boundary on, I guess maybe, let's just say the phone calls. That's been a big one, where if I don't recognize the number, just not picking it up, or else I could be on the phone while I'm trying to do something with my kids, while I'm out and about in the grocery store. So just being like, this is the new intake process. This is how it's going to work.
Yeah.
But then part of me feels bad.
It's that passion.
It's not like, oh no, I missed a call from a parent. I want to talk. So, but it really has been a game changer for me, because it's given me like breathing space. Yeah.
Routines and putting, what do you call it? Regulations, rules and regulations in place can definitely go a long way, especially at home with the kiddos as well. One thing you're proud of in the season.
I am proud of stepping out of my comfort zone and trying new things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Finish the sentence. Right now, I'm becoming a woman who
is strong.
That's beautiful.
Independent.
No, that's beautiful. Good job. I'm very, very proud of you. Awesome. You did good. Before we end our segment, I always like to ask my guests, how do they want to be remembered, and what legacy do they want to leave behind?
I think for me, the biggest thing that I would want people to remember about either me or Empower in general is the heart of it, right? Like our clinicians have so much passion for wanting to help people. Like I said, almost so much so that we forget the business side of things oftentimes, but like we just love seeing kids and even adults. Like we have some clinicians who service adults with aphasia or stroke or brain injury, just like seeing the difference that we can make in somebody's life. And I think I want to be remembered as somebody in the community who gave as much as I could to the community and to the families to help support. And if we didn't have the capacity to, I will refer out. Like I want families to succeed.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And if one day your kids happen to be watching this podcast, what message do you want to give them?
I would say, because it's definitely hard sometimes to balance mom life and a business owner, right? They do see me sometimes they see me a lot of times, picking up calls. Like my daughter had my phone number memorized when she was young, and I didn't realize it. And it was actually really funny because we were in the car, and I had left a message with somebody, and as I would go, please call me back at, I hear my daughter in the background, 647-746. I was like, she's 4. Like, how do you know that? And she's like, because mommy, you say it all the time. So I think it's just like a hard balance of like wanting to service the community, but also being there for your kids. So if I could say to my kids, I really tried to create a lifestyle for them and like to have a livelihood so that I could support them, but also to try to be present for them. And the decisions that I made in life were not easy decisions. And ultimately it was because I wanted what was best for them.
Yeah, for sure. That's beautiful. They'll realize that. And I want you to know, for whatever it's worth, I believe you're doing fantastic. And I always say, no matter what, you're going to be okay. You're going to be great. And what you're doing is so meaningful and has such purpose that you should be proud of yourself for the work and the difference that you're making within the community. So thank you so much for being here today. I had such a great time. I think you were so raw and you were so honest with your responses. I think your journey is beautiful, and the way you've navigated is very beautiful. I wish you lots of love and luck in the next chapter.
Thank you.
All right. Well, for those of you that are watching, thank you so much, and I will see you next Thursday. Have a great one. Bye.